Show has left the Show Me Institute. That's why we inherited Joe Miller, but that's a whole other story. He's gone on to become the executive director of the Great Rivers Habitat Alliance. Good morning, David Stokes.
Good morning, McGraw. Great to be back on the air with you.
You betcha. So you and Steve Ellman, St. Charles County executive, went down and testified in Jefferson City?
We've testified several times this year, along with a lot of other people, including representatives of school board associations, the regional St. Louis Regional Commerce Growth Association. It was great to see there.
Right.
And a lot of other groups supporting common sense tax increment financing reform. And this is a topic that you've been covering intently for 6, 7, 8 years.
Liberals, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, independents, socialists. It seems like everybody agrees that this is the wrong way to go about funding our world, right? This is a bad policy, and everyone agrees with it.
And when it comes to a vote of the full body in either the House or the Senate, it passes overwhelmingly. In prior years, it was stopped by leadership.
Right. Okay. So
but this year, it has gone through the House and now the Senate, and it just has to go back to the House because of some otherwise reasonable Senate amendments.
Right.
So we really need people to stay on it and pay attention that the House has to pass it one more time.
Okay, so Steve Ellman was with us the other day. He said he's been working on this for 16 years. And I asked him, why now? Why after 16 years? And he said one of the reasons was John Deal is no longer in leadership and no longer putting it in a desk drawer. But he also said that Stan Kroenke is the poster child for TIF finance reform.
Well, he is. I mean, Mr. Kroenke has been getting subsidies for his developments across the state for most of his career, I believe. And I think a lot of people are angry. Angry doesn't cut it.
Right.
Infuriated that the next proposal appears to be 1,800 acres of floodplain up along 141 and north of Page in Maryland Heights, and that the expectation, according to Post-Dispatch reporting, is that they're going to come in and ask for a huge TIF and other subsidies to take 1,800 more acres out of the floodplain 5 months after we suffered devastating floods. So
3 months.
I remember how mad you were when this was announced in February. I mean, you almost lost your breakfast streak about it so mad.
Well, and it was also 3 weeks after the man took the football team out of the town. But what's even blows your head even more is they didn't want to give him any money to build his football stadium, but they want to give him money to put small businesses out of business.
This is why Steve Ellman's been fighting this for 16 years, and I've been fighting for reform. At first at Show Me Institute, now at Great Rivers Habitat Alliance for 10 years.
So it's
important.
The fact that you guys are out on the PR campaign means you're either worried or someone's trying to mount a defense. Who's on the other side of this?
Well, I think the people on the other side of this are lobbyists for the companies that get a lot of tax increment financing,
right?
Wal-mart and others. There are plenty others. You hate to single out Walmart.
Right.
So I think they're probably quietly hoping it doesn't come to another vote in the House. That would be the expectation, because this bill passed the House a month ago, 140 to 12, I think was the vote. And it passed the Senate last night, 32 to 0. Now it passed the Senate with a couple of amendments, and the amendments are fine. I don't object to either of those.
Right.
But then now it has to go back to the House, and the House simply needs to pass exactly what the Senate passed.
Right.
Because if they do one more amendment, then it has to go back to the Senate, and there's not enough time.
Well, that's why these guys are so good at just deflecting enough to where they put another amendment on it that says it should start on a Tuesday and not on a Thursday, and that needs to go back to the Senate, and then they end up running out of time. Are you afraid that they're sort of, because a lot of people are watching this, that they just sort of kill it enough to where they run out of time?
That is the fear. They're definitely not going to defeat this by bringing it to a floor vote and having it lose. I mean, it's passing overwhelmingly because it's important and it's good for Missouri. And this bill that's being debated is not particularly radical at all. It's a compromise piece of legislation, and there's nothing wrong with that. It simply says that in cases where a county TIF commission opposes it and a city overrides the TIF, that it places further limitations on how that tax increment financing money can be spent.
Right.
And it's good limitations that will benefit the floodplain, I believe, and that's why Great Rivers Habitat is so strongly behind it.
All right, so when does this session end?
Session ends Friday.
Friday. And so it's now Wednesday, so they have 3 more days for the House to pass it.
And all it takes is for House leadership, which has been supportive of the bill so far. I don't have any criticism for anybody yet, except maybe the dozen people in the House who voted against it the first time. But,
right.
To each their own. They got it passed overwhelmingly.
Right.
So, yes, the House leadership, which has, again, been supportive so far, needs to quickly take this final passage up from the Senate. The 2 amendments should be no big deal at all.
Right.
Get it passed by the full House and send it to the governor for signature.
It'll be interesting to watch this because this is a classic example of how a bill becomes a law and/or how the big money comes in there and sort of crushes a bill that is overwhelmingly popular by both houses, by everybody, liberals, conservative, Democrats, Republicans. It'll be interesting to see if this gets to the governor's desk.
It'll be very interesting. And it's so important to stress that this has strong bipartisan support.
Right.
There are Democrats and Republicans supporting this overwhelmingly. And I really think that there's enough passion by some of the House members who are supporting it that they're really going to push. And I hope that House leadership just does what they did a month ago. Take it to a full vote of the House and let the people's elected representatives speak. This bill is good for Missouri, and it's HB 1434-1600 if anybody wants to Google it.
All right. David Stokes, Executive Director. Executive Director of the Great Rivers Habitat Alliance. Always good to have you here, my friend.
Thanks for allowing me back on, McGraw. At GRHA Mo is our Twitter handle.
Okay, as Executive Director, you have to come up with a better Twitter handle. That's really hard to remember.
Great, GRHA Mo, and the website is simply grha.org.
All right, there you go. Thanks.
Thanks, McGraw.
826 here, Big 550 KTRS. Let me tell you.